Hello there, I'm George Hall, and welcome back to the Good Growth Podcast. Now, if you cast your mind back 18 months or so ago, it felt like you couldn't open your phone or turn on the news without seeing some sort of mention of the Metaverse. It was the hot topic in tech for a long time, but in recent months it seems to have somewhat faded away, being replaced by the likes of generative AI and machine learning. Here today to tell us a bit more about what's happened to the Metaverse is Jacob Nicholls, account executive here at Good Growth. Jacob, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, George. Thanks for having me on.
Now, firstly, I know I alluded to it there in the intro, but I'm sure you've got some stats to back this up. The metaverse seems to have lost a bit of its relevance and a bit of its momentum, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems so. I think the hype was definitely generated around 2021 with Mark Zuckerberg changing Facebook to Meta, and all the massive investment that's gone with that. Meta was once valued at 1 trillion and nearly lost 3/4 of its valuation. And further to that, Meta spent 10 billion on the metaverse alone. And I think the product that's come from that everyone has seen that's kind of killed off the hype was the screenshots from Horizon Worlds of Mark Zuckerberg taking a selfie, and it basically became the laughing stock of the internet for a few months. So
I remember it vividly. It sort of looked like a bit of a creepy face that was somewhat akin to the Nintendo Wii characters.
Yeah, he was clearly embarrassed. He shared a new photo 3 days later saying the graphics are better, I promise.
And then casting your mind back sort of 18 months back to, I guess, 2021, what were the initial projections around the metaverse and how it was going to change and revolutionize how we communicate digitally? And then why hasn't that come to fruition?
Yeah, I think first of all, there was kind of a lot of confusion about one, what the metaverse was, and two, kind of how it would apply to my life as a consumer, as a business leader. And I think really it was initially projected to absolutely transform the way we worked, the way we interacted with our machines, but also to kind of improve our lives in the real world as well and bring us closer together using technology. But it kind of didn't happen in the way that I think most people expected it to, because with Meta's vision that I think everyone kind of heard about, they expected something to happen very quickly and very instantly. But with the kind of technology that's required, especially in terms of like VR, the adoption of VR, like the adoption of VR headsets has basically fallen flat over the past few years. It's a massive consumer shift if you're going to get people wearing VR headsets to work in, to kind of play in as well. I think it's a massive thing to convince them to do, especially when they cost few hundreds, a few £1,000s, and they've been making people sick from motion sickness, and they're not hugely comfortable either. So yeah, I think that kind of like consumer transformation is definitely what slowed it down, but two, the pace of the technology that's been coming onto the market as well.
So do you think if AR and VR were not only more accessible but also less motion sickness inducing, I guess we'd be in a very different place, wouldn't we?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I think if like nowadays there's a lot of people working from home, companies like international companies that have offices in various different countries, they would probably want to spend that money per employee to try and bring them closer together and bring back that kind of collaboration without having to spend all the money on flights, on trains, etc., or on travel in general. I think in that guise, it probably would have picked up a bit quicker, but then it's a case of do like employees and consumers actually enjoy it? Because I think it can feel a little bit forced if you're forcing everyone together in a virtual room with their customized avatars, and they're still sat at home with just the only difference is they're wearing a pair of goggles. So I think when you kind of frame it like that, it does sound a little bit silly and not worth the investment. But I think once there's actually something, the Apple Vision Pro is something that I've looked at and seen, and I was like, yeah, this feels a bit more like it. I think the likes of HTC Vives, Oculus VRs, etc., they've been focused a lot more around kind of gaming and really immersing yourself in a different world, whereas the Apple Vision Pro has kind of taken it like it's more of a mixed reality. So you're pulling your apps, your work, your displays, and putting them into context. So I think something like that makes a lot more sense in terms of consumer adoption, because consumers generally don't want to completely take themselves out of reality, I would say. They want to like augment or be able to seamlessly bring the tech that they know and love into their reality, which I think that Apple Vision Pro is trying to tackle. I mean, we'll find out early next year when it gets released into the US. But yeah, but again, a massive price point. It's nearly like for $2,500, I think. So, you know, it's not, especially in the cost of living crisis as well, it's not probably the thing that everyone's lining up to buy. But yeah, I'm quite excited personally by it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. And then beyond, I guess, AR, VR, and the cost implications, are there other hurdles that are yet to be crossed, whether it's infrastructure, technology that have contributed to the cooling off of the hype?
I think there's definitely been some influencer hype around it as well. The likes of NFTs, for example, everyone kind of saw those as a bit of a get-rich-quick scheme and didn't kind of recognize them for the value that they could potentially have. So I think there was a lot of kind of speculation around, okay, these would be great for kind of like entertainment events, like concerts, etc., like without having that worry, or like even like travel tickets, without having that worry that like it's been passed down multiple times, like it's been able to be validated. But I also think it's not had the massive adoption because, to be honest, metaverse technology and that sort of Web3 technology that tries to make everything a bit more immersive is, one, really expensive, and two, you do need a very skilled technological workforce to be able to do it. I mean, and I think the Meta example really does put a lot of other companies off because, you know, they've dropped 10 billion in it and they're still posting massive losses. Then it's kind of like, why would anyone else do it? But there is interesting examples in terms of one that springs to mind is BMW. Actually, they've created some virtual factories to run simulations on and understand efficiencies before they actually go and build the factories that they build cars in, which I thought was a really interesting application in terms of using it as a test bed, basically. And I think that it kind of goes back to what we do at Good Growth in terms of, you know, testing and learning and understanding before you go and, you know, drop 10 billion on a metaverse project, which I don't think Zuckerberg went through. So.
And it's interesting, we talk about Meta, that they're always in the news around, you know, data, privacy, security. Do you think there's some consumer concerns around privacy when it comes to the likes of AR, VR? I mean, I'm sure we could have a quick Google and there'll be a conspiracy theory about VR headsets stealing retina scans and using them for God knows what. Do you think that's held consumers back a bit and maybe not given them the confidence that they need to buy in?
I mean, it definitely came into my head when I was looking at this Apple headset. Like, they're definitely scanning the environment some way, but you know, I think it's that balance, isn't it? If you want these hyper personalized experiences, then, and that's of value to you, then you're going to have to give up a bit of personal data to be able to enjoy and achieve those experiences. But I think generally there probably is quite a bit of skepticism around, you know, why are brands getting involved in this? Is it to get their proposition out there, or is it another opportunity for a data grab? Is it another opportunity to learn more about your customers? But I think there's definitely caution to be taken around hyper personalized experiences in terms of how much should consumers have to be giving away to have a more tailored experience. Like, there's no need for scanning of their environment unless it provides value within something. So it's all about that kind of value exchange, I think.
Perfect. And then to sort of close things off, if you were to put yourself in the shoes of whether it's Zuckerberg or one of the heads of digital at one of these big companies, what do you think is the logical next step in terms of reigniting that hype around the metaverse and getting consumers back interested and more likely to make a purchase? And I guess further on from that, is any of that already happening out there in the market?
I think so. I think, first of all, the fact that like the metaverse really, even though it's kind of a catch-all term, it is kind of all around us. Like this Zoom call we're sat on today is an example of technology bringing us closer together. And, you know, like things like cross-platform gaming, like socializing in Fortnite, VR chat, etc. That it is here in a way, but it's just, okay, how do we take it a step further? And I think kind of going back to my excitement of this Apple headset again, but I think something like that is kind of the next step. And if consumers pick that up, then I think it could be a really interesting kind of like jump board, the things they use in gymnastics, to like launch it into something even bigger. But no, I think there'll definitely be a resurgence. I know everyone's focused on kind of AI, generative AI at the moment, but I think that's just a smaller piece of the puzzle of a wider picture, really. But yeah, does that answer the question?
Perfect. It does indeed. And look, I don't think Apple have officially released a specific date yet. I think it's still slated for early 2024, whatever that means. I mean, with Apple, you can never quite tell whether they're going to completely stick to that. But I think, look, prices starting at $3,500. It'll be interesting to see what uptake is. Well, Jacob, it's been great to have you on the podcast, and I'm sure it won't be the last time we hear from you, or the last time we hear about the metaverse. You've been listening to the Good Growth Podcast. If you'd like to find out more about us, check out our website, which is www.goodgrowth.co.uk, or why not check us out on LinkedIn. Thanks very much for listening.